Week one of the college football season kicks off this Saturday, so it's time for a preview. Let's do it with New York Post sports reporter and college sports guru Zach Priscilla, who joins me now. Zach, how's it going? Are you in college football mode already?
Hey, man, after this baseball summer, I'm ready for football. Excited for the season. I know we had a few games on the weekend, but the season really gets going this weekend. I'm excited. It's happy football's here. I got some really good games week one, and it should be fun.
Yeah, it should be a fun one. And Zach, you put together your top 25 heading into the season. Your number one team is the back-to-back defending champion Georgia Bulldogs. Did you consider any other teams for the top spot? And can the Bulldogs make it 3 straight national championships? Do you see that happening?
Yeah, I do. There was nobody else I really considered. To me, the bigger question is who is number 2, not who is number 1. Georgia is loaded. I know they had 10 players drafted last April, but they're ridiculously loaded. They're really the new Alabama. They just have talent upon talent upon talent. And to me, that's the bigger storyline to this season is who can end this, this run by Georgia. No team has ever three-peated since the advent of the AP poll in 1986. Some people like Michigan as the biggest threat. Others say Ohio State, LSU, Alabama. There's even some thought of USC or Florida State could be in the mix there. I just think Georgia's too good, personally. I just love them up front. They have tons of skill position players. They've had some good ads in the portal. I think Georgia's going to make history.
All right, I think Georgia is going to make history. We'll get to that a little bit later. But let's talk about Michigan, who you just mentioned. They're looking to win their first title since 1997. They're obviously coming off that crushing playoff loss to TCU. No Jim Harbaugh coaching for the first 3 games due to his suspension. You've got them ranked second. How large is the gap between the Wolverines and the Bulldogs, and does Michigan have enough to win it all?
There is a gap, but this is a lot of people do see this as the best Michigan team in the Harbaugh era. Quarterback J.J. McCarthy is back. Blake Corum, a Heisman Trophy candidate, is back. Dejon Edwards is back. They are loaded offensively. There's no question about it. They brought in some really good offensive linemen through the portal. I think they do have a good shot. I think they're making the playoff. I picked Georgia over Michigan in the championship game. And here's the other issue. Corum got hurt last year at the end of the year, so he didn't play in the playoff. Michigan lost to TCU. He's healthy. Michigan would have beat TCU, and who knows about what happens in the championship game. So there's kind of some unfinished business there for Michigan as well. Look, they're not going to miss Harbaugh in those first 3 games. They're playing, they have a soft non-conference schedule. The game, it's really going to come down to Michigan, Ohio State Thanksgiving weekend in the Big Ten. It feels like it always does. I know there are some people who like Penn State, but that to me is likely a game that's going to decide which team is in the playoff that Thanksgiving weekend showdown.
All right, so let's stay in the Big Ten here, Zach, because the next tier of teams in that conference is likely, you just mentioned, Ohio State and Penn State. Do the Buckeyes and the Nittany Lions have what it takes to compete for a national championship, or are they sort of on the outside looking in?
No, I do think Ohio State is very good, and I think Ohio State can absolutely win a national championship. I know they have questions at quarterback with C.J. Stroud to the NFL, but Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best receiver in the sport. They bring back their 2 top running backs from last year. The big question with Ohio State is the defense. That defense has let them down the last 2 years. They obviously have a ton of talent on that defense, but it just hasn't gotten it done. Now that's the big question for Ohio State. Penn State has ability. But look, James Franklin is 3-15 against top 10 teams in his time in Happy Valley. Hasn't beaten Michigan and Ohio State. He has not proven to win the big game. So until he shows me he can win the big game, I can't say I think Penn State can win a national championship. But they do have a ton of, like these other teams. Look, they're a top 10 team for a reason, but James Franklin's got to show it before we really buy into that he can, get them to the playoff.
I got to see it from Penn State. Have not seen it yet. Going to the SEC back there, because we talked about Georgia. You got Georgia as the best team in the SEC right now. Who's the next best team? Is it LSU? Is it Alabama? Who do you have as the next best team in the SEC?
I'm picking LSU. I think the quarterback Jaden Daniels is the difference. Alabama still has a three-way quarterback competition. When you have 3 quarterbacks, you really don't have any. And look, they do have a ton of playmakers, whether it's Dallas Turner on the edge or, you know, Ministry at corner. They are, look, they have it's Alabama. They got 5-star recruits all over the map. But I just think the quarterback is too big of a difference at LSU. LSU returns a lot. They beat Alabama last year. They ended Alabama's playoff last year. I think they're going to do it again this year.
All right, you see LSU coming out on top again this year as maybe the next best team after Georgia in the SEC. I'm going to move over across the country. We're going to talk about USC. All eyes are going to be on USC quarterback Caleb Williams. We saw last year the Trojans. They could put up numbers offensively. But the key question, I think this is the thing, Zach, with them. Do they have enough defensively to compete with the other top teams in the country? What say you?
Yeah, I think that defense is gonna prevent them from making the playoff again. I know they did make a lot of adds this offseason on that defense, but it was hardly impressive Saturday night in their week 0 win over San Jose State. Caleb Williams, I picked to repeat as the Heisman, the first repeat winner since, just the second repeat winner ever. The first one was Archie Griffin of Ohio State. I just don't think that defense is good enough. And look, this has been something that's followed Lincoln Riley around for a while. As great of an offensive coach as he is, as great of as a quarterback whisperer as he is, his defenses have always let him down. Going back to Oklahoma, it let him down last year, and I just don't think their defense is nearly good enough to get to the playoff or win the national championship.
All right, so you got USC on the outside because their defense will not be good enough to get it done. Everybody's always looking for a sleeper team each year, Zach. Who is the sleeper team that college football fans should have their eyes on? Who can basically be this year's version of TCU? Who do you see doing that?
I can hear our deputy sports editor, Mark Hale, yelling at me that I'm lost because we've been going back and forth about this for the last week. I picked Washington to make the playoff. I love Washington. Michael Penix Jr. is going to be a Heisman finalist. They return elite wide receivers. This is the team that had the #1 passing offense in the country last year. I'm picking Washington to win the Pac-12 and make the playoff. I'm picking Penix Jr. to be a Heisman finalist. They are this year's TCU. I actually picked Washington, I think, like 4 years ago, and they lost like 4 games. So hopefully I'm not jinxing them. But Washington is.
All right, going with Washington. By the way, who did Hale have as a sleeper team? This is what I want to know. Who did Mark Hale have as a sleeper team? He's giving you a tough time.
He didn't give me a sleeper team,
okay.
But he told me I'm crazy for picking Washington.
Crazy. He used the word crazy. All right, Mark, we'll see if Zach is crazy with that pick. All right, Zach, we're going to go to your early predictions. Who are the 4 teams that you have making this year's college football playoff? And when it's all said and done, who will be crowned national champions?
Georgia. I got Georgia against Washington as the 1-4. Michigan, LSU is the 2-3, and I have Georgia over Michigan in the championship game. To add one of our predictions, I picked LSU to end Georgia's winning streak in the SEC championship game. So Georgia will not be undefeated this year. Will win a record 3rd straight national championship.
All right, there you go. That is Zach Brazilla of the New York Post picking Georgia to 3-peat. That'll be the first time it has been done since 1936 when the AP poll started for college football. So we'll see if that is able to get done with Georgia. College football's here, Zach. Can't believe it. College football's here. You haven't been too thrilled with the baseball here in New York, so now you get some college football, and you should be excited about that.
I'm thrilled. I mean, it's unwatchable. It's unwatchable. Both teams. Best baseball summer of my lifetime.
Worst baseball summer of your lifetime? All right. Okay. Wow. It's pretty harsh one. It hasn't been good.
Look, I mean, I think the fact that Yankees are going to be is really bad. Look, the more years than not aren't good, but the fact that we don't even have anything of note to watch, basically from the second week of August on, is unheard of.
Not good for the New York
baseball summer of my lifetime.
There you go. Zach is sticking with it, just like he's sticking with his pick for Washington to be a sleeper team in college football. Check out Zach Brazilla's season preview, top 25, a really good one. A little disappointed he didn't have my Pitt Panthers in there, but we'll get to that another day. Thank you, Zach. Appreciate you, man.
All right, man.